Hello, I'm Phil Black, reporting live from central London. Let me show you where I am for a second, just so you can get a sense of the scene. We're just going to show you there's about 100, maybe 200, maybe 300 people here. It's a bit of a crowd. The reason we're here is because of a statement, a movement that you really normally associate with the United States, increasingly so. But it's one that is gaining momentum here as well. That statement, that movement, it is Black Lives Matter. The UK branch of that movement has declared today to be a day of action. What we have here this evening, in the early evening, is a protest, a demonstration, hundreds of people. We're hearing speeches, there are banners, and what this follows is a number of actions that have taken place in London, other parts of the UK as well today. Notably, I think the one at Heathrow Airport this morning, one that blocked off a road, caused something of a traffic disturbance, but certainly seared itself into the consciousness of all those that were affected. And we saw similar sorts of movements too in other parts of the UK, Nottingham, Birmingham. It was all about action, shutting down transportation in some areas, again taking deliberate action without official approval in order to raise the profile of the movement here. Now, it's interesting that there's a movement here. It exists partly in solidarity with that in the United States and the issues that are obviously so relevant there, those issues involving young black men being shot by police at disproportionate levels. To some extent that's replicated here, but it can't be the same obviously because British police don't carry guns, or certainly most of them don't. But what the people here are largely concerned about to a significant degree, in the domestic sense, is certainly the deaths of black people in police custody, the disproportionate number of black people in British prisons. And also they have international concerns as well, like the numbers of African people drowning in the Mediterranean as they try to cross the Mediterranean Sea to reach Europe to seek asylum and build new lives here. So for all of these reasons, that's why you're seeing these people out here in central London tonight. Now, what I'd like to do is talk to a few of these people, I think, and try and get a sense of why they are here, why they believe this movement is so relevant to them. So let's see how we go. Excuse me, ma'am. Hello. Do you mind if I just talk to you for a moment?
I'd rather not.
Okay. My name's Phil Black. I'm from CNN. No?
I'd really rather not.
No? Okay. No luck there. We'll try someone else. Let's see how we go here. Excuse me, guys. Do you mind if I just talk to you for a moment here?
For what?
Just for a moment. We're from CNN. We're broadcasting on Facebook right now. Just keen to know why you're out, why you've come out here this evening.
To protest police violence against people of color in the UK, in the US, and further afield.
Why do you believe this issue resonates here in the UK?
I'm from the United States, and I've been following how things have been developing there. And racism doesn't just exist in the United States, it's infected the entire world. And it's especially pronounced here in London. With all the deaths in custody against people of color, it's especially important time to be acting out.
Thank you. Same question for you. Why are you out here tonight?
Well, the same reason, but I'm not American, I'm British. I think the movement in America is a real inspiration to us. And I think, we've seen so many deaths in custody and acts of police brutality over the last few years in Britain, and it's about time we had a coordinated movement to challenge them.
What do you think of the actions that have been taking place in London today?
I think it's fantastic. I think it's really good. I think it really draws attention to it. I think you can see by the profile that this movement now has that it was a fantastic thing. And
we'll just move around a bit more. I know we're getting some questions from people who are watching this right now, which are being sent to me as well. Jordan asks, is the Black Lives Matter movement in the UK anywhere as big as in the US? I guess the answer would have to be no, it's not. The issue, as they are in the United States, but they still believe they are very serious. They still believe that they're dealing with issues of institutionalized racism, issues of casual and social racism too. One of the big concerns right now, the degree to which racism and hate crimes have increased in the United Kingdom, spiked quite dramatically, the police say, particularly around Britain's decision to vote and leave the European Union. The belief that racism has somehow become more acceptable publicly as a result of that political decision. That's a real concern for the people here too. I want to talk to someone here now who is also very involved in all this. Hi.
Hi.
What's your name?
My name is Rachel.
Rachel, you're live now on Facebook for CNN.
Great.
Tell me why you're here.
I'm here because as a black person in this country today, I believe that we can't do nothing anymore. There are young people here in this park that haven't ever seen justice for a black person killed in police custody. If we look at the over 1,500 people that have died following police contact since 1990, it's clear that we need to move from having and change the system that is in place currently.
A lot of people are asking us questions about this movement compared to the movement in the United States. The issues aren't exactly the same, are they?
So I think the root of the issue is exactly the same. It's anti-blackness across the globe. It's institutional and systematic racism against black people in this country. And that's all black people, not just black men, black women, black LGBT people, black Muslims. We see it in the same way. It manifests in a very similar way in this country.
But to be clear, just on the separation, I guess, in the United States there are concerns about an overly militarized police culture where, for whatever reason, that disproportionately affects young black people, particularly black men. Here, the militarized aspect, or shooting deaths do happen, but certainly not to the same degree, do they? It's more about, would you say it's more about the justice system?
I'd say it's more about a justice system, but still here we're seeing increasingly militarised police presence. I don't think that we can ignore that. And also when we talk about Black Lives Matter in this country, the Prime Minister that we have now as Home Secretary last year deported tens of thousands of students back to countries where they were not safe. That is a part of the Black Lives Matter issue here as well. So yes, it manifests differently, but the crux of the issue is the same.
One of the questions from the people that are watching us, Nathaniel asks, is this an international problem?
Absolutely an international
Tell me
problem.
why.
Because the same issues that you see in the US are the same issues that you see here. It's a global system. That's what we have to acknowledge. It's a global system of injustice that affects ethnic minorities, people of colour. That's what the system is.
To what degree is all of this happening in solidarity because of the issues, particularly in the United States? Where I think you'd have to agree it's a much more acute problem there, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as there's violence against a black person in the United States, you know, we feel it here because of, it's almost like putting a mirror across the ponds. We feel it here, but it's definitely in solidarity as well, because that's it. If it's a global injustice, it has to be a global movement against it.
Again, internationally, I've heard some of the people involved in this movement today talking about migrants. Africans drowning in the Mediterranean, people trying to get to Europe, dying at its borders. What's the concern there?
The concern there is that a lot of us, the communities that we come from as black people in the UK, are communities that are having those struggles with trying to come here to live a life. So personally, I'm Jamaican. I've spoken to many Jamaican migrants who've been abused by the system, people who have been completely sort of, I can't even think of the word. I'm going to say demeaned, but it's not what I mean.
Sure.
And then you hear stories of people who are deported back to countries where their lives are in danger. If we're talking about how Black Lives Matter, they matter here, they matter abroad, and we have to take we have to take responsibility for the consequences of the system that we have here, whether the deaths happen on UK soil or not.
I want to talk to you about the nature of some of the actions that we've seen in the UK today. They've been I guess short, sharp, would you say designed to disrupt people in a sense in order to create a bit of attention?
Yeah, I mean, it's direct action. That's kind of the nature of it.
So we've seen roads blocked, that sort of thing. Is that, what do you think of those methods? Is that a reasonable way, by inconveniencing others, is that reasonable in order to raise the profile of your concerns?
I think it's reasonable, and I think it goes beyond just raising the profile. People in those situations, if you're stuck in traffic for hours, you're experiencing a tiny amount of how it feels to be helpless, to feel powerless, to feel disempowered by systems that are beyond your control. I think that's where it goes as well, more than just sort of delaying a few flights. It's that emotional reaction that people get as well.
And that's a deliberate tactic here?
I think so, yeah.
Is this growing internationally? I mean, obviously in the US it's a huge movement. Here, clearly, support.
Yeah.
Other countries as well? Is there an international network growing?
I definitely think there's an international network growing. I mean, across Europe, you know, we see that racism is an issue. I know that people have been organising in Sweden, even going beyond that, linking struggles that are currently existing. There's so much solidarity between the Black Lives Matter movement in the US and the struggle in Palestine today. So there is definitely international solidarity.
The police say that issues like the deaths of black people in custody, that it really bothers them, that they care about these things and they do try to learn and change their procedures here as a result of them. Do you think that is true? Do you think they are listening? Do you think they are learning, they are growing?
I think you can say as much as you want. We need to see change. Like, it's great that, well, you know, I think it needs to go beyond a learning experience when a black person dies, you know, in police custody. We need to see a change coming from it, and we've not seen that change.
The reason this is happening today is because of that terrible event that happened 5 years ago, the shooting death of Mark Duggan, who was a young black man, unarmed, shot dead by police in London. And we know that all around the world. That was obviously a terrible event. Do you think that London has learned, that officials have learned, the police have learned to cope with things differently since then?
I honestly don't think so. I mean, if we still look at the stats around stop and search, you know, there's no indication that there's any better understanding of how to interact with black communities in London.
Just explain to people watching what does stop and search mean.
So a stop and search, a police officer can effectively stop you on the street if you match a description of somebody that they're looking for, but they don't really need much other than that. Statistically, black people are much more likely to be stopped and searched, black and Muslim people especially, compared to their white counterparts. It's been an issue that, as we've been talking about for years, is an issue of injustice against black people, against our right to just go out and be black without being stopped on the street. So that's the crux of the issue with stop and search.
Rachel, thank you very much for the conversation.
Yep,
I'm
no
really
problem.
grateful. Thank you very
Have
much.
a good day.
Thank you. Let's just take a last look at what's going on here, just so you can drink in the scene a little bit. You can see there is a large, passionate crowd, and you could probably hear them chanting while we were talking about all of this. It's clear that the issues are not as pronounced as they are in the US, but here, in a country that has a sizable non-white population, they are concerned about institutionalized racism, whether it's the way the police deals with black people during the arresting process, or the way they are handled through the prison system and so forth afterwards. So what these people are promising from here on is to continue this movement, to allow it to grow and to work together with that SAVE movement that has become so pronounced, so passionate, so strong in the United States as well. That's all for now. Thanks a lot.